Hello everyone, welcome to this new channel on neuromorphic computing. So we will start with an exciting question. What if future computers stopped thinking like machines and started working more like human brain? Sounds futuristic, right? Well, scientists are already building exactly what through something called neuromorphic computing. So in this video, we will explore why modern computers face limitations, how the brain solves problems differently, and how neuromorphic computing could completely reshape the future of artificial intelligence. Why traditional computers struggle? Let's start with a simple question. If modern computers are so powerful, why are researchers searching for completely new computing methods? Think about this. Every time you use an AI chatbot, facial recognition system, or recommendation engine, huge amounts of electricity are being consumed behind the scenes. Massive data centers filled with GPUs are constantly processing information, generating heat, and using enormous power. Most people don't realize this, but moving data between memory and processors actually wastes a huge amount of energy. Traditional computers were designed decades ago using a very rigid structure. One part stores memory while another part processes information. That constant back and forth communication creates delay and inefficiency. Now compare that with the human brain. Your brain can recognize faces, learn patterns, react instantly, and operate all day using only a tiny amount of energy. Sounds unbelievable, right? Here's where things become fascinating. Scientists started asking a bold question. What if computers could process information more like brain instead of calculators? To understand neuromorphic computing, we first need to understand why the human brain is so special. Your brain contains billions of tiny cells called neurons. These neurons constantly communicate with each other using electrical signals known as spikes. Now imagine an enormous city where billions of people are sending tiny messages simultaneously. This is basically how the brain works every second. But here's the interesting part. The brain does not wait for one instruction at a time like traditional computers. Everything happens in parallel. Different regions process information together, which makes learning and decision making incredibly fast. Even more impressive, the brain adapts continuously. Every experience strengthens or weakens connections called synapses. This allows humans to learn naturally over time. Think about how quickly a child learns to recognize faces or voices. Traditional computers struggle with that kind of flexibility. Meanwhile, the brain performs all these tasks using very little energy. Sounds smart, right? This incredible efficiency became the inspiration behind neuromorphic computing system. So what exactly is neuromorphic computing? In simple terms, it is a type of computing designed to and imitate the structure and behavior of the human brain. Instead of processing information like the traditional machine, neuromorphic systems use artificial neurons and brain-inspired communication methods. Now imagine this situation. Instead of a computer constantly running calculations every second, it only reacts when important information appears, similar to how your brain responds to every event around you. That event driven behavior makes these systems far more energy efficient. Another major difference is that neuromorphic systems try to combine memory and processing together, just like the brain. Traditional computers separate them, which creates delays and energy waste. Neuromorphic hardware attempts to remove the bottleneck. Here's where things get fascinating. These systems are not just about speed, they are designed to adaptive learning, pattern recognition, and intelligent behavior. Scientists believe this could become one of the most important technologies for future AI systems, robotics, and edge devices. Now let's look inside a neuromorphic chip. Unlike traditional processors that constantly process instructions, neuromorphic chips work more Living neural systems. Artificial neurons stay mostly quiet until meaningful signals arrive. When something important happens, they send spikes to other neurons. Think about this like motion sensors in a smart home. They only activate when movement occurs instead of running continuously. This approach saves enormous amounts of energy. But here's the interesting part. Memory and processing are placed much closer together compared to traditional computers. That means information can move faster with less energy loss. Neuromorphic chips also use parallel communication, meaning many neurons can exchange signals simultaneously. This is extremely different from older computing systems that process tasks more sequentially. Sounds futuristic, right? Some neuromorphic chips today can already perform complex tasks while using a fraction of the power required by modern GPUs. That is why researchers believe these chips could become essential for future intelligent devices. At this point, you might be wondering how neuromorphic computing truly compares with traditional computers. Let's break it down simply. Traditional systems are extremely powerful for calculations, gaming, databases, and structured tasks, but they usually rely on continuous processing and heavy power consumption. Neuromorphic systems work differently. They process information only when event occurs, which dramatically reduces unnecessary activity. Think about this. Your brain does not constantly focus on every sound in the room. It reacts only when something important happens. Neuromorphic systems try to follow that same principle. Another major difference is adaptability. Traditional systems follow fixed instructions very efficiently, but neuromorphic systems aim to learn and adapt more naturally. Here's where things become fascinating. Neuromorphic architectures are massively parallel, meaning many processes happen together at once, similar to the human brain. This could make future AI systems faster, smarter, and far more efficient. Most people don't realize this, but future computing may not completely replace traditional computer. Instead, both systems could work together for a different type of intelligent tasks. One of the most important ideas behind neuromorphic computing is something called spiking neural networks, often called SNN. Traditional AI systems usually process information continuously using numbers and calculations, but spiking neural networks behave more like real neurons inside the brain. Instead of constantly sending information, neurons communicate using spikes that occur only when necessary. Sounds simple, but this tiny difference changes everything. Think about this like people sending messages only during important moments instead of talking non-stop all day. This reduces energy usage dramatically. Another fascinating idea is timing. In spiking neural networks, the exact timing of spikes can carry information. That means learning becomes more dynamic and natural. Here's where things get fascinating. Researchers believe spiking systems could eventually help AI understand patterns more efficiently, especially in real time environments like robotics and smart sensors. Most people don't realize this, but the future of AI may depend not only on bigger models but also on smarter and more brain inspired ways of processing information. So, where could neuromorphic computing actually be used in the real world? The answer is surprisingly broad. One major application is robotics. Robots powered by neuromorphic systems could react faster and more naturally to changing environments. Now imagine this situation. A rescue robot enters a dangerous building and instantly adapts to obstacles without relying on massive cloud servers. That becomes much more possible with low power brain inspired hardware. Another huge area is edge AI. Instead of sending data back and forth to distinct data centers, smart devices could process information locally using very little power. This is extremely important for wearable devices, smart cameras, autonomous drones, and portable AI systems. Here's where things become fascinating. Brain inspired vision systems can detect movement and changes far more efficiently than traditional cameras. Some researchers are even developing smart sensors that mimic how human eyes works. Sounds futuristic, right? Neuromorphic technology could eventually help create AI systems that feel more responsive, adaptive, and energy efficient than anything we use today. As artificial intelligence continues growing, one challenge becomes impossible to ignore. Future AI systems will require enormous computing power and energy. That is exactly why neuromorphic computing is attracting so much attention worldwide. Scientists are searching for ways to build machines that can learn, adapt, and respond more like biological brains. Think about this. The human brain still outperforms many AI systems in efficiency, adaptability, and learning speed. Sounds unbelievable, but neuromorphic technology, in an attempt to close that gap, it's racing far and very close. Researchers across the world are developing brain inspired chips, smart sensors, and new learning systems that could transform robotics, healthcare, autonomous systems, and edge AI. Most people don't realize this, but the future of computing may become less about raw processing power and more about intelligent efficiency. Here's where things get fascinating. We may eventually see computers that learn continuously, consume very little energy, and interact with the world in far more natural ways. And honestly, this technology is only getting started. So let's quickly bring everything together what we have seen till now. Traditional computers are incredibly powerful, but they consume massive amounts of energy and struggle with brain like adaptability. The human brain, on the other hand, performs complex learning and pattern recognition using surprisingly little power. That difference inspired researchers to create neuromorphic computing systems. Instead of relying on constant processing, these systems use artificial neurons, spikes, and event-driven communication inspired by biology itself. We also explored how spiking neural networks works, why neuromorphic chips are more energy efficient, and how future applications could transform robotics, edge AI, autonomous systems, and intelligent sensors. But here's the most exciting part. This technology is still evolving. We are likely witnessing the early stages of completely new computing era. Think about this. The future of AI may not depend only on larger models and faster GPUs. It may depend on machines that think more naturally, adapt more intelligently, and process information more like living brains. And honestly, that future is closer than most people realize. So, if you enjoyed this journey into brain inspired computing, subscribe for more future technology explainers and let me know in the comments which neuromorphic topic you want next.